Welcome to the Planting Wildflowers podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Leonardis. I'm an entrepreneur, wife, mom, and stepmom. I'm super interested in people and perspectives, and I love how a good conversation can leave you feeling empowered. Sometimes even pique your curiosity to learn and grow. Mostly though, I love how really listening to one another opens up limitless opportunities for that beautiful sense of connection and community that we all love. Thanks for tuning in. Let's be inspired. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Planting Wildflowers podcast. Today, I'm so excited because I'm having a juicy conversation with my friend Mindy. Mindy means the world to me, and this conversation could go in a million directions. We really don't know where it's going to go today, so you're in for a treat. And we can't even tell you the details of that treat because it is literally going to unfold as it's meant to, as do much of our interactions with one another. This is our relationship, and this is what it means to have good friends in your life. So, Mindy, I welcome you to this podcast. As you know, this podcast is a collection of the beautiful people in my life, and you are amongst the most radiant people I have ever known. You are so many things. You are a wellness advocate, you're a yoga teacher, you're a health coach, and let me get this right, because I don't want to botch anything here. You are currently a student of you're a manual practitioner of osteopathy student. I knew I was going to bugger that up. So let's just let the mistakes happen right off the cuff, right? But you're so much more. You're so much. I mean, these are the labels that we identify with people, the things that they're doing. You're also a mom to an outstandingly wonderful child. And you're a friend to many, a mentor to many. But I would love to hear, once I welcome you, of course, in your own words, what are you all about? Welcome to the podcast, Mindy. I'm so glad you're here.
Oh, Rebecca, thanks so much. What a journey we've been on, and I feel very blessed and lucky to be included in your list of beautiful people in your life that I can say the same for you. I am about wellness, wholeness, and supporting people and helping them when they're in pain or when they need some extra help. It's always kind of been my dharma in yoga, we could call that. My path is to teach. It kind of always has been as a teacher, to share. I share a lot, and to help people. So at one point I was actually kind of labeled a while ago. This was a while ago, but I saw I don't know if you could call them a psychic, but they were doing some work with me, and it was like right away, it was like, well, you're a healer. That's your label, is you've been a healer many times in your soul's journey. So continue with that sort of thing. And whether that, has any merit or not, it does resonate with me, and it does make sense to me. So yeah, right now I think I'm just, I'm just navigating the craziness of what's going on in the world. And I am immersed in school. So it's, while I continue to do my business and help people on the side. So
yeah. Well, first of all, before we get away from this, the psychic, or whatever you want to call her, the person who could see you, the spiritual you, nailed it with the healer piece, because that is what I've always known you to be. In fact, I can remember you and I sitting together at a doTERRA convention. And I believe I was to the point where I felt like I was going to have to get up and leave because I had such an excruciating headache that was just limiting my ability to focus. I couldn't sit still. And I remember you reaching over, and you were, for lack of a better word, I'm going to say massage, because I think that's what most people would understand. But you did something to my shoulder and to my neck, which was it's like you knew exactly where to go. You were very in tune with where my physical pain was, and you knew where to apply pressure and how much to apply. There's something about that, because you just, people can describe what's going on with them, but you just seem to know exactly how to help them find a solution and get them feeling better. So, and that's only one example. That was
Yeah,
brilliant though.
I'm not going to take all the credit for that. I will pass that on to my, one of my main yoga teachers, Todd Norian of Ashaya Yoga, because a lot of the stuff like that I've learned and honed as a skill have come from being a yoga student and learning from him and assisting him and being a yoga teacher as well. I mean, a lot of those things I've had happen to myself, and then, I've had one of my yoga teachers kind of address it. And of course, the second that it got me out of pain, that sticks with me as like, put that somewhere, because you're going to have to help someone else. And yeah, so I appreciate that. I feel like I do have a bit of intuition as well when it comes to it, but it's not just intuition. It's based on training, right? Like I've had like 1,000 hours of professional yoga training. So
absolutely. And I that is the very first thing that I want to kind of explore with you, is that whole thing. It's one thing to have that knowledge though, and have experiences that you can leverage personally, but it's another thing to be the kind of person who would be willing to provide that for other people. I think so many of us these days, you just mentioned what's going on in the world and our current condition. And I think the human condition is so impaired right now because we know things, we feel things, and yet we're failing to take action on the things that we know.
And there's no touching.
Right. And we're healers when we touch,
Yeah.
It's
so hard.
But you are that person. So, and I mean, people are very quick to pick up on that about you. So let's explore the topic of yoga a little bit, because you are a healer, and one of your main tools is yoga. I mean, it is a philosophy. It is a way of life. It is like you embody yoga. You embody the yogic principles. And I wonder if you would be willing to share with us what brought you to yoga, because your personal track to the yogic experience is very it's very full, it's very robust, it's colorful, some might say. It is certainly you, as a healer, they often say that people who heal also need to be healed. Mm-hmm. And your personal journey to yoga is an example of that exact thing. So if you're able, and only take it as far as you're willing, we can always explore this together another time, because I think we continue to add on to our stories as time goes on. But if you're willing, I would love to know what brought you here, because maybe it would lead someone else to the same space or a similar space.
Yeah. Like, hey, I am an open book, and I don't have a filter, and I should probably then, put a trigger warning before this, just in case, but I'm going to give you a snapshot of me. The very first time I literally stumbled drunk, basically, onto a yoga mat. This was in 2001. I had moved from Thunder Bay, and I had moved to London, and I was in bad shape when I moved, and I was even worse shape when I got here. So I'm going to give you a picture of my life at this point. Bulimia, anorexia. So I was throwing up every single day. I smoked cigarettes. I drank every single day, sometimes like blackout drunk. I was doing drugs. I was doing ecstasy. I was smoking pot. I was like, I had all sorts of addictions, and I was going to clubs and going to raves, and so I was on tons of medication, taking antidepressants, puffers, because I was smoking, and I was just sick, constantly in the hospital, constantly bronchitis all the time. That was my life. I met somebody who had a membership at Good Life Fitness, and on a Sunday morning at like 11, my cell phone rang, and I remember like thinking, who's calling me? Because it's the weekend, so I wasn't awake until 4 p.m. That was my life. And so he's like, hey, do you want to come to the gym? And I was like, the gym? What? No. Oh, and there was this little like ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling, like the universe, ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling, you should answer. Say yes. Like I got that little, like, it wasn't a nudge. It was like a hello, say yes, go to the gym.
Yeah.
It's so off track right now. You're not going to make it if you keep doing what you're doing. So I stopped and I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Okay. I'll come to the gym. How silly is that? So I died. I couldn't do anything. And I've always been very active. But still I was a mess. And, of course, then my addictions shifted to the gym, shifted to going 2-3 hours a day and just being obsessive about it. Can't ever have the middle. I always have to go to this extreme back then. And so I kept walking by the yoga class and I see people in Virabhadrasana too. And like then Shavasana and, you know, they're laying down. I'm like, what is that? I think that's yoga. I've always wanted to do yoga. Kept walking by. And then finally, and I kept asking people that I knew to go with me because I was afraid to go by myself for some reason. Because I think I knew it was going to be not just a physical workout. It was going to be something. So I was like kind of intimidated to go. But I went. Finally, nobody wanted to go. So I went, laid on the floor, did the class, tore my hamstring right off the bone, heard a big pop, hurt myself completely. But yet laying there in Shavasana, the tears, the puddle just formed behind my head. And I had a real message. Like, I mean, it was loud and clear. That was, if you want to live, you do this.
Wow.
And that's how it started for me. And I started to change my addiction of cardio and things like that. And I started going to the yoga class more and more and more. And I'm just going to say, like, it wasn't really yoga per se. It's some form of yoga, but a very fitness type of base. It didn't matter. For me, it was exactly what I needed. And I started to just go so much. And pretty much immediately after that, I'd say it was about 4 months, I signed up for a yoga teacher training.
Oh, wow.
I still wasn't I remember showing up after like going to Toronto for a weekend partying to my teacher training, you know, and so it took a little while, but it was very powerful the way it entered my life. And the beautiful thing about it was that I also started meditating when I was in this teacher training, and a lot of my addictions and issues just fell away. It wasn't a fight anymore. It was like I had tried to quit smoking in the past, and it was like so dramatic. I had to make it so dramatic, right? Like, oh, I'm dying. You know, it was like, it was so hard for me to cope and to deal and to have those yucky withdrawal kind of emotions and physical detox. So when I got to yoga and things just like one day, I remember with my eating disorder, like, I know this sounds, am I allowed to swear or not?
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Okay. I remember one day, I know this will sound very rudimentary for some people, but if anybody was in my situation or has been with an eating disorder, you'll get what I mean when I say this. But like one day I was coming back from yoga and I was driving and I just stopped and I went, fuck, I deserve to eat food. It was huge. You're a human being, and yet you live feeling like you shouldn't be, or you don't deserve to actually eat, swallow, and digest food. That's how I was living. And this like acceptance of eating. And so like I turned that around to this love of food that I have now. I have a food tattoo. I have an avocado tattooed on my arm.
Yes, you do.
So, and I mean, this tattoo on my arm actually is a representation. Started with a carrot. Because the carrot, I used to cut it up into 5 pieces and have a chunk each a couple hours.
That was your food intake for the day?
Ridiculous. No, that was what I would allow myself.
Oh my goodness.
So everything else I was binging and getting rid of, but I would allow myself 1 carrot cut up or celery. Like it was like, I think back and you can't handle anything in life when that's how you're existing. You just can't handle anything. And I was a mess emotionally, mentally, psychologically. I was not well, you know, and I was crazy. Like I literally was crazy at the time, and no wonder my body had no nutrition and no love. So it's amazing how yoga was this platform that just every part of my life began to heal from yoga. Now, I'm not going to say that that happens to everybody, but what I am going to say is that it's a certain type of yoga that I was practicing that unfortunately I think is not the norm anymore in our society. And it's changed so much in the last 10 years. Like, I mean, when I would leave this yoga class from my teacher, like everything in my life was shifting. I didn't just get in the car and go, oh, that was nice. I feel good. No, it was like, oh my God, I've got to I'm going to do this. Like I'm going to stop doing that. Like it was transformative in every way. It wasn't just like a workout. It's something way more. So if you've gone to yoga and you don't like it, you need to go to a different yoga.
Yeah, no, that's a great piece of advice, because I mean, you've just described something that, you know, I don't know if many people really pay attention to those moments. You know, the universe was literally saying to you, if you want to live, this is what you must do. You heard that message, but I know a lot of times that's not true for people, whether they're just not ready for it. Perhaps you were ready, you must have been ready for it. You were positioned properly for it. But I mean, yoga is such, it's a unifying, but a very unique experience all at the same time. I know I have my experiences with it as well. And I wonder, for those people, like you just said, if you've ever attended yoga and didn't really care for it. I have lots of friends that say, oh yeah, I'm not flexible, so I don't do yoga. I know we've both heard that before, but this is, there's so many things we can talk about, but I think it's so important to keep going with this, because yoga is not the postures.
No.
It's not
No.
the if you're not familiar with yoga, those are referred to as the asanas, and we really need to get beyond this idea that it's a series of poses that we're stepping into. And whether you sweat or not, you've had a good yoga experience. If you could, you know, think of a group of people, Mindy, in front of you that maybe have never experienced a true yoga class and what yoga is meant to deliver. What would a description of that mean? And I know that is a really tricky thing to do, but you really are masterful with your words, and especially when it comes to yoga.
Yeah.
What can it offer? What would attract someone to take another class or to try one for a first time?
Yeah. It's going to take courage for you to do it. And then it's going to take some dedication to understanding that, yoga's probably going to put you into a place of vulnerability. And depending on how comfortable you are with that, you know, it's going to get exposed in that class. And this is where, you know, it's not a joke when we talk about the last pose, Shavasana, the corpse pose, when you lay there, that's the hardest pose in yoga. Literally, it's the hardest. And people are like, that's silly, you're just laying there. It's like, no, it's you're not just laying there. I found it the most uncomfortable. I was fidgeting. I was actually, you know, you got to lay with your palms up, your legs, everything open. You're completely vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And if you stay still, all the shit is going to come up, like in your mind. I got to do this and this. And you start fidgeting and like crossing your arms and crossing your ankles, because you're not ready to be vulnerable. And you know, there's a little bit of this strengthening that comes by continuing with yoga. We could call it a strengthening of the nadis, like the energy channels in the body. You could call it in anatomy, you could call it like the vessel systems of the body. Like in order to handle more energy into your body, you have to strengthen. And so the poses help us to strengthen not just the physical body, which it does, which is essential, but it helps us to strengthen the energetic body as well, so that we can actually handle more prana, more vital energy into the body system. Because if not, yoga can kind of short circuit people, because you can't force it. Like if you cannot lay there and be vulnerable and be still, it's okay. But if you keep going and you actually keep trying to be still, eventually you get there. So I'm going to give you an example of, because I had a yoga studio for 7 years, and I've taught, I think, about 10 yoga teacher trainings since 2010. So these are, you know, teachers coming to learn how to teach. And so I have, and with my studio and just being in the community here, I've taught literally hundreds of people of yoga, and sometimes their very first experience, right? So like 2 examples of the power of this that you can actually connect with someone through your words and in your class is, I used to teach at the Men's Mission. I was teaching at a vulnerable population. These are men in recovery, all men and me. So like, and I was like, probably in my late 20s. I'm like, hi guys. and they're in recovery, and I'm on a stage in a church, right? And they're just like looking at me like like, what is this, a stripper? Like, what's going on right now? Right. And like, as soon as I start talking, I always have a theme in my class, like a heart virtue that connects to the heart level of somebody. And then all of the actions are very small. So it's not the whole body. It's like, today we're going to focus on lifting up here and taking this back.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's the whole focus, not the whole body. So when they leave the class, they're like that. Right. So it's broken down into little bits. So the first class, always someone would come up after and go, "Whoa, that was like really cool." Like, whoa. And then that kept happening. And like, another experience is, I got a chance to teach to PTSI individuals that are in a treatment program. I was helping the place become accredited with, I guess, the government for grants and stuff like that. So this is a place where people with PTSI, which, if you're not sure, I had to look that up myself. It's post-traumatic stress injury. They're trying to change the terminology disorder to an injury, because often it's trauma-based, right? So it's like an injury to the brain almost.
Yeah.
A traumatic event that actually injured the brain and the way we think. So this is for first responders. So I taught these, I think there was 4 guys, and they're all firefighters, and they've seen some things. And I was super nervous to teach them. And at the end, all of them sat there going, "This is different. What is this?" I'm like, "Well, this is yoga. This is yoga. I don't know what you've tried before. But if it doesn't have a spiritual connection, then it feels like exercise." And those are very different things. Exercise is extremely important, but it isn't going to create deep and powerful transformation.
Yeah. And we can't separate these areas of our wellness, our mind and body and spirit. They're 3 pillars that require one another's strength.
And yoga brings all 3 of them in at once.
Right.
Except you also need strength training and cardio and functional movement and self-care, and you need all those other things. But for me, yoga is the central hub of my life. So I still do all those other things as well. I don't just do yoga, but I treat a workout as a workout. I have a different mindset. I'm still aware of my breath and my alignment, but yoga is this deep connection to my heart. The thing is right now, which is making it so hard, is the other part is that a lot of people have asked me about doing yoga at home. And I would love to tell you that that's a great idea and so on and so forth. If you have been to classes and you have had a teacher assist you and help you with your alignment, because you could hurt yourself. You just don't go crazy or anything. Listen to your body. It will tell you. But yoga is community based. You're not meant to do it by yourself. Mm-hmm. It's a community. My classes, we used to hug. People came in, so many hugs. It was a hug fest. It was fantastic. I would give anything to have that space again with that community that I had at my studio, because it was helping me and it was helping a lot of people that came there. And I knew that. It was very powerful to have that space.
The ripple effects from your teachings, the classes, your studio, like that's still felt all over the place. I mean, people are constantly, connecting the dots and, oh yeah, I learned this originally from. So, I mean, you have just painted such a beautiful picture of yoga. And the thing I love about having a conversation on this topic is that I love it when we can offer people an opportunity to tap into something that is completely accessible to them. There isn't, this yoga isn't for a specific person. No. It's not an age related thing. It's not a cultural thing. It is for everyone. And as you mentioned, I mean, the community aspect of it is very, very strong. And while we're not able to really engage in that at this time, there are ways to do that. And we're going to talk about that as we wrap up the podcast on how they can tap into what you're able to offer right now, considering our restrictions and things of that nature, which I hope go away
I
soon.
just want to add something about it because, in doTERRA, right? The oils, doTERRA means gifts from the earth.
Mhm.
And I really do believe that yoga is a gift from the universe. It is we don't come with a manual when we're born. Like, obviously we understand physiology and anatomy and things like that. But as far as we know, like, there's no manual for human life. And yoga and meditation are the gift to humans,
Mm.
to how to take care of ourselves on every level, in every way. But in order to do it, you have to be consistent and you have to stick with it over time. One class once in a blue moon isn't going to do anything. It's not going to change anything. It's a little bit every day. And I challenge some of you to try maybe half an hour yoga every day and see what actually starts to happen. The more you do that, the more powerful things you'll feel. You'll be able to handle more energy. So then you have more energy.
That's an amazing thing to touch on, and I love how you tied that in, because that's where we were going to go next, is talking about another tool that's accessible to us. It's not only a tool that I love and use every day, but I'm so grateful for my essential oils, specifically my doTERRA oils. It's all I would use, and I know you're in the same boat, but the reason goes beyond the oils themselves. doTERRA also is very community focused. It has brought so many of us together. I don't know, maybe our paths would have crossed. I would like to think that they would, but doTERRA is what united you and I together. So there's more to it than just the oils. But for today's conversation, I'd love to talk about, because we're talking about tools that people can leverage for better wellness. And I'm talking physically, spiritually, and mentally in this situation, because the oils offer opportunities in all of those. If you could just capture for us how this tool has impacted you, I think that would really add some color. I mean, this isn't a class. We're not teaching anybody how to do anything, but oftentimes personal testimonials are everything, and yours is powerful. So if you don't mind sharing a bit of that with us, would be wonderful to know.
Yeah, well, then I can take you back almost 7 years ago. About that, when I had a newborn. And, it appears that I have all these tools from yoga to help me, yet none of them were helping me. And it's because of the very powerful influence of going through a pretty traumatic labor and childbirth, and and having her at home, no drugs. I've done a lot of drugs. That would have been a good time to do drugs, actually, but I didn't. And it was very traumatic. The birth was trauma. It was traumatizing. And after I had her, it didn't get better. It got significantly worse for me. And I suffered from very severe postpartum depression that I felt like kind of came out of nowhere. And most of it was centered around, how was I going to take care of this baby in a natural way? I was already on a natural path. And so I was already feeling quite limited. I was a health coach. So I spent a lot of time researching products in the health food store, and, with varying results, and often spending a lot of money and really not having any positive or consistent results from certain things. I was taking supplements that I swear I was just peeing out, or they were hurting my body because the quality was just not there. And when I had Mela, my daughter, the very first thing was that she was getting gassy. And this is a very normal thing for a baby, right? But I couldn't handle, so my trigger, if mom's out there, if you can imagine this for 1 second, my trigger for postpartum depression and PTSI was her crying. How many times a day does a baby cry? So constantly brought to my knees, just totally unable to function as a human anymore. Because it was this moment where she wasn't crying, and then I was like, oh, I'm okay. And then she would start crying, and I was done. And I started crying. I could not. I was having anxiety attacks. So of course I met Ange, And I asked her really out of desperation, because I was teaching mom and baby yoga at the same place she was doing boot camp way back. And you were there as well. And I said, do you have anything for a newborn's tummy to maybe help with digestion? And she said, oh yeah. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm so tired. Can you tell me if it's safe and it's going to work? Because like, I'm a researcher, so I wouldn't use anything without researching it, but I couldn't. I wasn't sleeping. I was exhausted, and I just needed another mom who I knew had looked into this very seriously to tell me it was safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I trusted my gut, and with Ange, for sure, I was like, this woman isn't messing around. She knows what she's talking about right now. And so I got Digest Zen, because that's what it was called, because it was from the US.
Yeah.
The drop on Mayla's tummy. 10 minutes later, she burped, tooted, giggled, pooped. I was like, what the heck is this? And it was as if this huge, like, whoa, everything just stopped. It was like, this is exactly what you have been looking for. Nature. Nature knows, and nature has created the most powerful plant-based medicine in its purest form on the planet for everything you need. Of course it does. Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
Of course it does. Does it need to be combined and blended and changed and synthetics? No, probably not, because we're humans. So we have some very big issues facing humanity right now, and we require extremely powerful natural tools. And we're going to continue to need that. We're going to continue to have to be supporting our bodies without adding synthetics and toxins into the system, because we are living in a time where this is an everyday thing that we need to be mindful of. So the oils for me as a mom were what started it. And then over time, over the last 7 years, I guess, it have become just such an integral part of my life and my wholeness and my wellness. Like, it's so hard, and you know this, it's so hard to convey the way that I feel about doTERRA and these oils to people who just don't know. Like a sample, here's a little tiny, here's 5 drops of peppermint, go for it. It's great for, head tension. There's so much more. There's so much more. And until you're using them with consistency over time and having experiences, you don't understand what they're all about. And like even some people that I have shared oils with, and they have them, they're not using them, right? They're not out front and center. Like I got oils all over everywhere, so it's such a powerful gift that we have, and an absolute essential tool for my health and my kids' health. Even my mom in hospice, oils got me through that for sure. And her, right? They can help us on so many levels. And just touching on my, now in my schooling and my training and going so deep into physiology and anatomy, make no mistake, the power of that olfactory bulb in your nose and the power of inhaling molecules that are purely plant-based. Make no mistake of how powerful they actually are. Just breathing them in, never mind all the other uses we can use them for, because they are pure. But wow, like it's unbelievable. I love that my schooling is backing up my information that I've learned from people in doTERRA, from the researchers, from the doctors, from like the conventions, and having this information presented and sitting there in the arena, like taking in all this science. Like I'm telling you, it's all really based on science. It's not woo-woo fairy dust. It's chemistry and powerful.
Totally. So would you then say that, and I know the answer to this, I know what you're going to say about this, I think, because I know you, education is the key, because what you just described, and even taking it back to the earlier part of our conversation on yoga, sometimes we park things that we don't fully understand when they're not tangible and we don't see the results that we expect. Like we've created an expectation in our mind of what something can deliver. And when it doesn't do that immediately, we park it and say it doesn't work, and then we're quick to move on. And we're always in this perpetual state of dissatisfaction, when if we, just kind of spent more time with it, continued to educate ourselves on it, the layers of this would continue to open up. It would continue to unfold and offer all that it has to offer.
Yep.
The oils are mind blowing with this. I'm so glad we got on this topic. This conversation was, this has been a year. And regardless of when people are listening to this episode, I think you can say that to be true of, different segments of our lives. And we're always looking for ways to be able to support ourselves. And maybe first we're looking for ways to support other people. I think, especially as women, we're always in this position of wanting to give. And we sometimes feel tapped out with what we have to offer. The essential oils offer these opportunities that are unlike anything else. Yoga offers opportunities unlike anything else. So when you are ready to offer yourself support, when you're in a position where you need to support other people, where do you go? And these intangible tools, sometimes intangible results, I should say, are often, almost always, the very, very best source, because they literally are the source for solutions. I'm constantly blown away, and I think it's so fun that you and I get to go through this together, because even though we've been doing this now together for almost 7 years, our minds are constantly blown with what it's able to offer. So let's take this a step further. I mean, this has been a year where we have talked about mental wellness probably more than any other time. I know, at least for me personally. I wonder, in your words, where are we at and where are we going, or what needs to happen for us to be able to restore a calm state of mental wellness? Because that's what we already talked about it. We talked about the physical pillar. We talked about the spiritual pillar. How do we restore and nurture what has been drastically depleted recently?
Mental health we're in a crisis. Mm-hmm. If you think that the actual CV is the crisis, that's a mistake. It is, but the mental aspect of this, the fallout of this, people losing their shirts, their houses, their relationships, their friends can't even really go out, their social life, the effects of that are going to go far beyond this actual, pandemic. And I think for some people it's affecting them and they don't even realize how it's affecting them. So I just want to say with mental health right now, here's the top things that I think need to be prioritized. And you can only help someone else if you're helping yourself, because you're of no use to someone else if you can't breathe and you're having an anxiety attack. You can't help someone else. So you have to invest and take time to take care of yourself first. And this idea of self-care needs to be discussed too, because I think for some people that is like getting your hair done or a pedicure or something. That I'm going to say, I don't believe that to be self-care. I believe that to be pampering and beautiful and like adorning the goddess. Nothing wrong with that. But your self-care is going to be yoga. Your self-care is going to be plugging in the diffuser and getting it set up so it's running all the time, so that you're constantly breathing in these molecules to help clean the air, calm the mind, that you're applying the oils topically to your body to help soothe tight, anxious muscles or tension or stress, and you're taking the supplements. You cannot think, it's a mistake to think that even if you were the healthiest person on the planet, that you don't have deficiencies somewhere happening. Mm-hmm. It's impossible, the amount of food you would have to eat to get the nutrition we actually require. And so at the very basis of our mental wellness is actually nutrition, and it's actually what we're eating. And unfortunately, when we're super stressed like this, it causes this cycle of like emotional eating, binge eating, eating things that you don't normally eat. I'm going to give you like a really funny example. So picture me.
Yeah.
Just picture me for a second. Last March, April, maybe April-ish, each night having a bag of chips and a beer.
No, you didn't.
I was like, and then I remember like one day being like, what the fuck am I doing? Seriously, what is this about? No more. And I mean, I put on some weight. I was not feeling good. And I was just like, okay, that is done. And that, you know, I have a pretty good foundation and I still slip down that slope. And now I'm like way in a different place in so many ways, but you know, stuff like that is going to creep in and it's not going to make you feel any better. So if you have a solid, you know, like the LLV from doTERRA is perfect. And you are, I don't just take that though. Like I take other supplements every single day. I take On Guard every day to help my immune system. And it makes me, it's not just that, it's called the protective blend because it is protecting me, right? From life. I feel like when I take it, diffuse it, it's creating this shield of protection. I know it's hard to explain unless you have experience with On Guard, the blend, but it's so, so powerful. It's like this shield. And so it's not like it's not impermeable. It only lets the good stuff in and out. It keeps the bad stuff out. That's how I feel like it works. It's not just like it blocks everything. The good comes in, even when you take it internally. It doesn't kill the good guys, it kills the bad guys. So having that basis of nutrition and backing up to make sure everything is topped up, the vitamin D, absolutely essential in every way, shape, and form right now. Daily exercise and every day outside. Every day, 10 minutes outside. No excuses. You need to get outside into nature to be grounded, to get fresh air, to get sunshine, whatever we have. So those are my top things, right? Is in order to take care of your mental health, you actually have to be an active participant in that journey. Because if you lay on the couch and put a heavy blanket on top and don't get out of your PJs and drink a bottle of wine, it's not going to go very well.
This is truth. Mindy, this excites me for people to hear because these conversations are not happening in mainstream for sure. And I sometimes wonder, even in smaller circles, are we talking about our mental wellness in terms of how to be proactive or how to restore and nurture? Because all we're talking about right now are these things that we perceive as the silver bullet solutions. And
it's not going to work that way.
Right, they're not real. They're not realistic.
No.
They're not sustainable. So what you've just offered is, it might feel, you might hear this if you're listening to Mindy right now and you've just listened to these top tips on mental wellness. You might think that's far too simple, but you've been overcomplicating things for far too long if that doesn't land for you. And just let that notion bake in right now.
Yeah. And I want to say something else too. If you can't get out of your PJs and get off the couch and stop with the unhealthy emotional eating and the wine and the this and that, get help. Reach out. You know, I also am a health coach. Like I work one-on-one with people and it's all very simple solutions. It's nothing major overhaul. Nobody is capable of that right now.
Right.
We are hanging on by a thread, some of us. Can you do a 10-minute walk every day? Is it possible? Of course it is. You know, can you make sure that you are, you know, eating better food? Yes, you can. Do you need help? Maybe you do, and maybe you need to reach out to someone. Because if you're that, and I'm telling you, like I have had severe depression. I have attempted suicide 3 times in my life. I was on antidepressants. I was on the couch. I know what it took to get off. So yeah, if you need help to get that, it's a very hard time because we're isolating, right? But it doesn't mean you need to be alone.
That's true. I mean, it's what you've just suggested will sit so differently for so many different people. When you were talking about getting outside, I was thinking about moments where I have felt very, very low, and I know getting outside would be the answer. And sometimes you're just like, I just can't.
Because you
So I
feel vulnerable.
remember, yeah, I can
You
remember.
feel vulnerable to step outside because
It's
it's so
true.
powerful. You're like,
Yeah,
it's cold, it's wet, it's
yeah.
because you get grounded and you get quiet, and so all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's like shavasana. Going outside for a walk in nature is like that same vulnerability in shavasana, and
Absolutely.
that is the you know what though, like you can look at that as a ring of fire. You need to go through, and you don't just go through. You got to get heated up. There has to be some friction and some burning going on to get you going, and a squeeze. The universe squeezes us. It contracts us when we need to be propelled into the next level of our life. So that like yucky feeling right before you're like, I should go for a walk. And then all the itty bitty shitty committee, like, no, you shouldn't, you don't have time, blah, blah, blah. It's all BS. And you have to tell that like part of you to just shush up. And in that moment, I love Mel Robbins. I don't know if anybody follows her, but
Yeah.
all you're going to do is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stand up, go put your shoes on, dress appropriately, and go outside. And don't overthink it. Just actually do it. So everything is like the mind has this beautiful way of sabotaging every good intention we have. And so if you just stop your thinking and you say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then that's it, act and take that action, because what's happening is there's like this arrow being pulled back in that, like, I should go for a walk, and you feel tight. I should get off the couch and do exercise. It's that arrow being pulled back. And then you either just like, don't, it's like, just like you miss it, or there off it goes and off you go. And it's little tiny decisions we make every day that make a bigger difference than you doing like a massive overhaul of your life.
Yeah,
That's not gonna
nobody's
work.
in that situation right now. I mean, it's the tiny little things that add up to something truly special anyhow. And the little things are the sustainable things. They
Exactly.
become part of your being once you
Yeah.
add them once in a while. So yeah, this is such a good conversation. You're coming back, right? We're gonna have more chats together.
You know where to find me.
You mentioned Mel Robbins, and I know that Mel has been a mentor, someone that you have invested time in learning more about. I wonder if, before we find out how we can get in touch with you for your style of mentorship, tell us who your mentors have been, or who inspires you, or who do you look to for your guiding information? Because that's a big deal. We want to know, like, who's your source?
Yeah. I will say with confidence, Brene Brown,
Mm.
Mel Robbins, and Todd Norian, my yoga teacher.
Beautiful.
And lots of books. I've read lots of books, and if you don't like reading, then you can do audiobooks, but always filling your mind with good, not just like, don't just pick the subjects that you like start learning about other things, because it helps to expand your mind. And I'm going to also say there's lots of online yoga stuff happening. So, I mean, there's even trainings. There's like, I think you're in the online training. Like there's so many opportunities to get into yoga right now from home, or exercise programs. I'm going to give her a plug, but please approach this very carefully if you are not doing a lot of fitness. I have been recently following Carolyn Girvan. She's from across the ocean, and she's got a program on YouTube called Epic. So it's like, I've been doing it, and man, is it hard. But I will say that I have gotten ridiculously strong in my body in the last month and a half.
And I would consider you one of the strongest.
No, I have couldn't even believe like the difference in my body from working out with weights. And women, we got to do that. There's you don't wait. You need, the sooner you start lifting weights, it's absolutely essential for your wellness as you age.
I hear you, sister. I recently hired a personal trainer who I hang out with 3 times a week, and she has already made such a glorious change. I'm not seeing it physically just yet. I can feel it. My triceps are killing me even as we speak. But my mindset has shifted so significantly, and I know that this is something that I'm not deviating from. It's my time, and I think that's such a great suggestion. Okay, so I'll grab her name. I'll put it in the show notes so that if someone's interested in looking at
someone's interested in epic.
Yeah.
Epic transformation at home. Like I'm like doing this at 9 o'clock at night sometimes after I put my daughter to bed.
Wow.
And I'm talking like this is a full, some of them are an hour-long workout and I'm drenched. Like I am like working it.
No.
And I am not giving up on myself.
That's the thing. You can't. Because I mean, you always have to have your own back.
You can use this time, this hell of a year of staying home, and you can either lay in bed and watch Netflix and eat chips and drink beer, or you get, it's not easy to start, but once you get going, the momentum is so powerful. And you might have a hiccup along the way. It's fine. Just get back on it. Don't just like throw it all out because it's like, oh, I missed a workout. Who cares? Just do it again. Whenever you're, like 2 days, have a rest day, fine, but get back on it. Take care of yourself.
Maybe the next time you and I are together, we can kind of explore that topic a little bit more about how you get yourself into that mindset where you're dedicating time to yourself, because
well, you know what? I'm an endorphin junkie. So I know where to find the endorphins in my body. And they come by like sort of, moving and sweating and feeling alive. Like that's where they come from. I'm kind of addicted to chasing that feeling in my body. And that kind of ecstasy, that bliss that we tap a little bit in yoga, I am like an ecstasy chaser in my body. In postures, I know like it's this balance point and it's like a big back bend or something. And then it's like, whoa. So yeah, like and it makes you feel good. I don't mean it from like a esoteric kind of like, I mean like you feel good when you're sweating and you're moving and you're working your body and moving it. That's what makes you feel good. You're human and it's required.
I feel that in dancer. That's the posture that I feel that in. Yeah. And I feel like I am and look and feel so beautiful in that. Yeah.
I can picture you in dancer.
Yeah, there we go.
Like beaming. I know it's that. So like, there's so many topics. And I'm being, again, super authentic. Always. I always am. I share authentically. I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything. Like, I didn't just get here from just randomly. I've worked very hard to do some healing and I have a lot of grace for myself to not be perfect.
That's the thing. We started this conversation with you describing how you literally tumbled into the room. You tumbled into a room. If that visual doesn't connect with somebody on some level, I don't know what does, because we've all, maybe not that exact experience, of course, but we've all tumbled into a room, so to speak. And then it's up to us. What do we do once we're in that room? Do we roll the mat out and offer ourselves some space to breathe and discover what's possible, or
lay down? I think of it more like a trench. Like we're in this trench and what are you going to work hard and crawl out of that? Or are you going to lay down and wait for them to put more dirt on top of you? Or or do you need a friend to reach out and down to grab you, to help you come out of there? Because maybe that's what you need. Maybe you're too tired to do that by yourself and you actually need some help, and there's nothing wrong with asking for help.
Like punctuation mark right there. Please, please, please. And it doesn't have to get to a drastic stage. I mean, it could just be you just describing to a friend, I'm just really tired. And the words I need help don't have to be the words you choose to use, but I mean, say something that indicates you could use some support.
I need a friend. I love this. I need a friend.
Yeah, that's super. That is, yeah.
And I don't just mean like your BF. I mean, like, I need a friend. I need a counselor. I need someone to help me with money. I need someone to help me with separation.
Mm-hmm.
I need a friend. And because it's someone who's in your corner. So it doesn't have to be someone you know. It could just be like someone who's in your corner, right? Like a coach.
Yeah, like someone who doesn't just hear your voice, but listens to what you need.
And isn't judging you.
Yeah, and no judgment. Yeah, that's the key piece in being a real friend.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, judgment is it really has no place.
Not in friendship, absolutely not.
It keeps trying to find its way into different parts of our life, but it has no place, truly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gosh, I love you.
Well, that was a good chat.
This was good. This was a juicy chat. So, Mindy, tell all of the listeners where they're able to find you, because I know there'll be several people who want to find you, learn more about the work that you're doing in essential oils, or maybe they want to explore your online yoga classes. There's so many different things that you're doing. You'll be you're a student right now, and I'm gonna say it wrong again. A manual practitioner of osteopathy, which means, you guys, I'm gonna have an osteopath in my corner in the future.
Can't wait.
I love that. So where can we find you, Mindy?
Okay, so I think I'm on socials. I've got and you can friend me as well on my personal Facebook. I'm Mindy Willis, I think. Mindy Willis. Align and Shine Yoga is my yoga. So there's alignandshine.com, and then there's the Facebooks. I'm on Instagram. I think I'm Mindy Willis on Instagram. I'll have to put that in the show notes.
Yeah,
recently changed my name quite a bit. So, yeah. And on Align and Shine Yoga, you can, if you email, it goes right to me.
Okay.
I am Align and Shine Yoga. So if you want to get a hold of me through that website, you can. I have a restorative practice on this Saturday from 1 to 3. Mm-hmm. It's $20. It's going to be such a great reset for the holidays, given all that's going on. We also need that downtime. So this will be a very therapeutic, restorative practice. Anybody can do this kind of yoga on Saturday. You just need some pillows and blankets. It's going to be total bliss. And yeah, that's on my website too. And yeah, that's how you can get a hold of me.
I love
it. Don't be shy to reach out at all. I'm a Northern Ontario girl. I'm super friendly. I'm happy to help you and answer questions. And if I don't know the answer, I will try to find someone who does. I also do one-on-one health coaching with very few people at a time. So if you're wanting to explore that a bit more, I have a 6-month program where we get together online twice a month. So if you need that kind of help, or you're ready for that, then reach out to me and we can chat about that too.
That's a beautiful offering. And friends, she really is about as real as they come. So certainly reach out, find a way to stay connected with Mindy, because she is one of those bright lights that you just simply need in your life. You will appreciate knowing her on so many different levels. Couldn't thank you enough, Mindy, for being part of my show. I'm so happy to be able to bring these kinds of conversations to an audience, because this is how we talk. This is us.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a normal conversation we would have had.
It's so true. So inviting people into, what a true friendship looks like is such a wonderful thing. So thank you very much for being so giving of your time today.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, of course. We look forward to having you back in the future. Thanks for joining us, Mindy.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Take good care of yourselves.
Well, that's a wrap for today's episode, friends. Thank you for hanging out with us here at the Planting Wildflowers podcast. We'll look forward to seeing you again real soon. And in the meantime, if you would be so kind as to rate, subscribe, and share this podcast with others, I'd be most grateful. We'll catch you again soon. Until then, take good care.